Hey,
Hi, Manuel. Welcome.
right. Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you for inviting me to join you in this conversation. Um, I am Karen Grimson. I'm an art historian and curator based in Miami, and I'm pleased to be in conversation with Manuel today. Manuel Espil. He's a visual artist based in Madrid, born in Buenos Aires, who has an exhibition of paintings currently up at Hutchinson Modern and Contemporary through October 14th. Hello again, Manuel.
Hey.
Your exhibition, and I'm going to start sharing our images here. It is titled Worlds of Exile. This is in
Yeah.
reference to an edition of Ursula Le Guin's writings that group together her Planet of Exile from 1966 with other two titles.
Yeah. Rokanan's World and the City of Illusions. Yeah, that was the first book that I read of Ursula. And yeah, I really liked the title about, it kept like, ringing in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, yeah.
No, please go ahead.
All right. No, that I was going to say that at the time I was thinking of a title of for the exhibition, and and as I was, migrating to Spain at the time, felt like something that put together the subject matter in my work with my life experience at the moment.
Can you talk a little bit about that experience of migrating, your experience of difference as a foreigner, having left Argentina, settling in Spain, and then producing this body of work in Spain? How did the experience of migration impact your work?
Yeah. Well, I mean, uh, this, there's always, to me, in my work, there's always something about my life experience that gets into the work. So, in that sense, the context where I was informed a lot of the decisions that I took. So I was I did most of the works in Barcelona, which is where my wife and I arrived in Spain. And yeah, and it was like a new experience to me. I felt like I didn't belong. So in that sense, also, reminded me a lot to Planet of Exiles. That feeling of alienation, sort of, being the foreigner in a foreign world, and just trying to learn, to recognize the new territory. So I decided that I wanted to do portraits, or yeah, I call them portraits, but that's something to discuss, I think. But and landscapes, which were the two main things that were where I saw myself at the moment. Trying to recognize the territory I was in, and also recognizing myself in this new situation. So, also, this experience was very was not only new, but very like, I don't know, oppressing in a way. Like we were all the time, preoccupied about everyday things, like where we were gonna live next month, or and also, you know, I didn't have the, you know, my friends, my network of people that you know, I could, you know, rely on. And the studio was something that was I want to say that I was lucky, but I also, you know, tried to find a studio, thinking of the exhibition, but also, you know, because I needed a place where, well, where I could kind of touch base, you know. So to me, having a studio all the time was something like a, you know, like a safe place where I could go and sort of think of all these things. And yeah, like that's a lot of my practice. Like to me, painting is like a place where I can think, and in that way, you know, my life experience sort of permeates into my work. But I guess yeah, like I decided what to paint in relationship to my situation. Like the decision of making landscapes, which I don't know if I ever painted landscapes this big before. Like they usually have a lot of characters in it. And you know, the three portraits that are, you know, yeah, those ones were a decision that yeah, I think had a lot to do with that feeling of strangeness and alienation.
So you're talking about the studio space as a shelter, kind of, from that experience of alienation.
Yeah, or yeah, like a base, you know, like, yeah.
And I think what this phenomenal trio of paintings suggests here, inspiration, contemplation, the break, is a sequential order for the three stages of painting that would have taken place in this safe space, like you called it. But they're also self-referential in their allusion to your habits, right? Painting, sipping mate, and smoking. So do you think of these as self-portraits in any way?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, yeah. I think I mean, to me, the thing is that portraits to me are kind of an abstract idea. So the way I create the portraits is pretty much through cross-referencing inside the painting, like, or because, yeah, you know, like these characters are more like avatars, because, you know, they're not actually people in it.
Right.
But yeah, the actions that are pretty much what, you know, defines the characters are very self-referential. Like, this is what I do in the studio,
Right.
basically.
I think these scenes are so dense in references, and we'll get into it a little bit deeper, but I want to point out one thing, and it's these details on the vertical edges of each painting, introducing the idea of the theatrical, the play within a play, the meta scene, this curtain suggesting that they've been pulled open, indicating that the scene is taking place on a stage within which someone else is creating another painting, in the case of inspiration. And the sense of theatricality is exacerbated by the caricatures in your paintings, these avatars, like you call them. How do you construct this layering of meanings and references in your work?
Yeah, I like this question. Well, let me do a brief comment on how I I decided to do these paintings this way. So at the moment, I wanted to do this. I had the sketches of these 3 paintings, and they didn't have the scenery, the staging.
Mm-hmm.
But then kind of, I think I tried something new in a way, but it just felt like, right.
Mm-hmm.
Because painting, I mean, there's something about the illusion in painting that, uh, you know, it's, I don't know how to describe it actually, but it's just that it felt like more real in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
but to have them on a stage. Yeah, probably, it could be the same stage that, the curtains can, open and close.
Mm-hmm.
But um, yeah, the the whole thing for me, it's pretty much about uh, layering, as you say. That's the way I work. I like I like to, spend a lot of time painting
Mm-hmm.
and looking at the painting. In looking at the painting and spending time in front of it, I just, come up with these ideas of adding different elements, and they sort of, to me, they sort of create a narrative that that it's what the painting is about in a sense.
Right.
So as you said, the staging is another layer, um, and most of the objects that surround the characters come from my memories. Like, these are all things that um, have been part of my life at some point.
Right. And I want to focus briefly on this painting, Contemplation, because it implies another important convention, I think, which is the gaze. And like you said, a recurrent aspect of your work is its reference to historical paintings. In the case of Contemplation, I see an iconography that goes back to Raymond Montvoisin and Delacroix, 2 painters with a strong sense of exoticizing romanticism in their works. Both of them, Montvoisin and Delacroix, were traveling artists at the time of the creation of these works. So therefore, they were painting scenes from and of a foreign land, much like you were doing from Spain. So do you think this sense of the foreigner's perspective was at play in your painting of Contemplation as well?
Well, yeah, I think, like, I get that feeling sort of in every painting. Like, I like this, that this what you're saying, that you're sort of a foreigner to the painting. Well, I don't know if that's exactly what you were saying, but I sort of yeah, like to feel like I'm looking at something, strange and from afar. Like, all the exercise of painting is sort of trying to, recreate that foreign land, or, a place that it's hard to describe, or it's sort of, I don't know if exotic, but sort of unknown.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel the the exotic or romantic, maybe the romantic, yeah, but because these are landscapes from my own country that I paint, so they feel like super personal and familiar to me. Of course, I invented that, but there's no, you cannot find that landscape anywhere. But yeah, I think most of my work is from memories. So I don't feel like the landscapes are exotic or something like that, but they are foreign in a way. Like I am looking at them as I am looking at what I want to paint from afar, from a certain distance.
Right. That's super interesting, because then the work is your creation, but it's foreign to you. And in that distance, that's where you establish your gaze, right?
Yeah. Like it's all about that. It's all about, trying to look something that it's sort of familiar but unknown in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's the most interesting thing about painting, just trying to reach out into, the void or whatever, and trying to
Bridge that.
Yeah, get something
Mm-hmm.
out of it.
So we're both big fans of Ursula Le Guin. I think it's interesting that we've seen her work, her literary work, permeate into the visual arts in recent years so much. Your exhibition is titled Worlds of Exile. I did an exhibition this year with another quote in the exhibition title. So we wanted to bring her voice into the conversation. And I think what you're saying about bridging that void between your foreign aspect and yourself is captured in this short sentence from her Planet of Exile, which says, and I quote, "She, the stranger, the foreigner of alien blood and mind, did not share his power or his conscience or his knowledge or his exile. She shared nothing at all with him, but had met him and joined him wholly and immediately across the gulf of their great difference, as if it were that difference, the alienness between them, that let them meet, and that in joining them together freed them." So I think that could extend to your relationship to painting in a very romantic way, because this is a quote about Rollery and Altera's intercultural love and the incompatibilities of their origins.
Oh yeah, totally. Like as if the romance is between the medium and the artist.
Exactly.
Creating something new of it.
Yeah. I'd like to move into your landscapes or your atmospheric perspectives. This is one painting of Earth in the show, a very small and beautiful construction. And then there's these two works in the exhibition that suggest a sense of belonging as well. Your aerial view of Patagonia, in your native country, and the imagined topography of World of Exile, which, like you said, doesn't exist anywhere. So again, the same question: how do you construct your landscape scenes, and what are you representing when you do so?
Yeah. World of Exile. Actually, I feel like that's the Fitzroy, in a way. Do you have in mind the Fitzroy? Kind of looks like that.
Yeah.
Well, to me, landscape is. I think it's sort of the most, in a way, the most interesting genre. In a way, like even more nowadays that we have all this technology to look at our environment, like the satellite views,
right.
like the satellite view of Patagonia, or or the picture of Earth that's based on the Apollo mission when they photographed. But so yeah, like to me, landscapes are about the way we relate to our surroundings. I think of landscape as that relationship between human and earth, between there's also an element there that for example in the satellite view, there's the element of technology mediating in that gaze.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I feel like there's something about those images that feels so I mean, you know what it is, it is, earth or whatever part of the earth it is, but it's sort of strange because you never actually seen it. So it's this kind of alienation that is produced by the mediation of technology that interests me the most about the satellite landscapes.
Mm-hmm.
And also the idea of the distance, because if when you think of a landscape, you usually think of within the territory,
Right.
a horizon,
Mm-hmm.
the vegetation, animals, the soil, water, clouds, and none of these elements are in these kinds of landscapes. And so I like the contrast between them, and I feel like the imagined landscapes, which are like more familiar,
Mm-hmm.
more terrestrial, sort of talk about a different thing. Like it has to do more with the human scale of things, like it's literally down to earth view of the environment. And the other one, it's sort of sort of an alienated view of has to do with how technology in a way perverts this relationship we have with the environment. And regarding like the imagined element in the landscapes, like I always like to imagine things. I don't like copying from reality. I'd like to, in this sense, it's very romantic. Like I like to exacerbate things in the images I try to paint, like the distances and the scale of things.
And speaking about scale, I think we should talk a little about this large format painting that you completed in the middle of the pandemic, and it's called Pandemic. And I'd like for you to tell us a little bit about death, what role that plays in your production. I think we've spoken about theatricality in painting, narrative, the sense of anachronism that is implied by the different temporalities that you referred to. You could also say that painting always implies an absence, which is the distance between the image you create and the object it represents, or the scene it is bringing to fruition. But in works like Pandemic, there is an overwhelming sense of death, and we'll show a few details shortly. But there are, collapsed bodies at the edge of the river, which reference in composition this tremendous painting by Juan Manuel Blanes, There is also a detail of a cemetery tombstone that have your initials, MAE. So how do you understand death? What do you think about it frequently before a painting? Does it permeate your work during the process of production?
Yeah, I think death pretty much like conditions everything I do. Like, of course, one cannot experience death, but this idea of death that actually when the pandemic, the COVID pandemic occurred, I felt like death was around the corner. Actually, like it was a very traumatic experience, and so I kept thinking about death all the time, and so in a way, well, actually, the blindness painting is also from another pandemic, that from
Right, the yellow fever.
And that's why the quote in it. But and yeah, like I feel like death is pretty much sort of one thing you must address in at least that's what I believe, that one address on well, let's say that I want to address death in the paintings that I do, because I feel like death conditions, or it's pretty much the the thing that impulses, the impulse of everything we do, like um, missions to Mars, or um, you see all these things happening in the world, and to me, it's just in the end, it's pretty much about death, about people trying to evade death. Of so I feel like talking about death and not confronting death because you cannot experience death, but just going over it and just walking through the idea of death, to me is an essential part of my work. I feel um, like it's a big part of my life also. Not that I'm scared of death all the time, but it's just that I feel that this is one of the main reasons I do the things that I do.
Mhm.
Um, and so to be, yeah, I think most of my paintings, at least from the pandemic onwards, have a
An
death.
element of death.
Yeah, death is lingering over there somewhere,
Right.
like an idea.
Mhm. Yeah, it seems like you paint death frequently, but you also paint survival, the survival of technologies, obsolete but still present. The Nintendos on the bottoms of the stage.
Yeah,
So maybe it's death at a larger scale than just the decay of a human body.
yeah. And you can actually say death is the ultimate horizon. It's also in the landscapes itself. Like you see that's the curious thing about the technology, how it sort of feels like it's a way of evading death, prolonging life or getting rid of horizons, um, yeah.
I like that. So a view like this might be the ultimate horizon.
Oh yeah. The shadow that follows us.
Right, the glooming presence of death.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by your work. I think we've only gotten a detail of a really robust and broad cosmovision that you're able to share with the world through painting. So I think we want to encourage people to go to Hutchinson Modern and Contemporary in Manhattan for the few days that the exhibition is still up, at least 10 or 11 days, to also reach out to us, to Isabella Hutchinson, to think about your work more in depth. And I want to thank you, Manuel, for letting us talk about this and showing it in New York. It's super exciting to have such a young artist with such a mature use of language.
Thank you, Kaya. It's been great. I loved all the questions, and yeah, thank you for the interest, and I know.
Okay, thank you, Manuel.
All right.